I would like to introduce two of my very good friends and people I greatly admire, Paul Loverme and his mother, Mary Beth, who are going to do a presentation today. And rather than me going into everything and explain what they're going to do, I would like to show Paul's book. And it's really a fantastic book. And I have a set of questions that I'm going to start asking Paul and his mother about their presentation. And you guys can go ahead in the chat and ask questions, or even just raise your hand. I don't want to overwhelm them. But they're wonderful speakers. And so I would like to start out with Paul. Where are those questions?
You have Paul's, I have Mary Beth. I do want to tell everybody that we are recording this. If you want to ask a question and do not want your name mentioned or speak out, you can do that by doing it in the chat. Or if you ask a question, we will, and you let me know, we'll take your question and or your identifying information out.
So I'm going to ask Paul to start talking about, why he wrote the book and a little about his illness. But what I'd like to share is I knew his mother in the NAMI family class. And so while Paul is going on this journey, I'm hearing about some of the challenges the family is having and talking to his mother. And I'd just like to share that this is an example of a great deal of courage and love in a family. And I think that, we know in NAMI that that's so important, family support, but this is just such a wonderful example. So we'll go ahead and start with you, Paul, sharing a little bit about your experience and why you wrote the book.
Okay. Well, basically, the book is about my life as an artist in Portland, Oregon, and stress, basically getting the grips of my livelihood, and then living with bipolar disorder without me even knowing I was living with bipolar disorder. So I believed I was being trapped and followed by the government. I believed I could speak telepathically to other individuals. I believed I was in a game, like an acting game. So I was looking around for cameras and microphones. Long story short, it ended my art career. And then I took to my Jeep with my cat and traveled the country. And I believed I was being stalked by my friends and family. So I became disenfranchised with my family members, my friends, who I've always been very, very close to throughout my entire life. And I just believe that they were set out to hurt me and harm me and harass me. It ended with me in Virginia, and my dad had called the police on me because I needed assistance. And so I was forced assistance. Then I went through a court order process where I was required to take medication. The first time I went through court order, I denied medication. I started to wrap my head around my family and friends who have always loved me. There's no way that they would be out there to harm me and harass me and stalk me. So I started to migrate back west to Arizona to be back with my friends and family and reconcile. And while I was in Holbrook, Arizona, I had another breakdown and taken to another hospital. And I was again required by court order to take medication. This time I adhered to it. I accepted it. And I've been taking medication for about 1.5 years now, and it's been doing me quite well. And since moving back to Arizona, I moved to Prescott about 1 year ago, and my family and friends and I are having great times. And it's been a blessing to know people at NAMI, and here I am today.
So, it sounds like just all real smooth sailing, the way Paul is saying it, except for those of us that were involved and worried. And so Mary Beth, could you share, some of the challenges that you faced and a little bit about your part of the story?
Sure. So, Paul growing up and all through college, always excelled. He was very social, played sports, had a lot of friends. So when he graduated from college, we expect him to get a job, settle down, get married, the normal routine that an American would do. But anyway, he started getting into art, which we encouraged. That was something that he liked to do. He moved to Portland. This is a real brief outline of it, but he moved to Portland, and that the stress of what he went through up there, I think, kind of led to the bipolar disorder rearing its ugly head. But when it started, which was in August of 2016, that was the first time we noticed that something was up with Paul. And we had gone there for a visit, and having no mental illness in my family that I knew of, so I had absolutely nothing, no background to fall on. I was looking at him, trying to figure out what was going on. We thought maybe he was lazy, just needed a little kick in the pants. So he came to live with us for a while. And that whole summer that he lived with us, it was just a nightmare. That's when I first noticed that he looked like he was hearing voices. He was acknowledging things around him. And so then, of course, we start, Googling everything I see. Okay, what could it be? And that's what got me on the track of it, some kind of a mental illness. And again, not having any history of it or any knowledge of it at all. You think, okay, hearing voices, he has schizophrenia. I would talk to anybody and everybody that would listen to me, trying to figure out what was wrong with them. And a couple of them were professionals. One was a nurse. There was another one that was in law enforcement, or I can't remember who the other one was, but I heard bipolar disorder. And I kept thinking, no, it's not that, because I had a whole misconception about bipolar disorder. Anyway, after the summer was over, Paul took off, was living in his car with his cat. And within probably 4 or 5 months, just stopped all communication with us. He, up to that point, kind of was just, he wouldn't reach out to us unless we tried reaching out to him. And that was always through text messages. But then the communication stopped altogether. I would get sporadic emails from him, just going off on me that he hated me and to leave him alone and we were evil, and it would just go on and on and on and on. So by the end of 2018, well, even before that, I started getting a little desperate, looking for help, and I was, Googling every day, how am I going to live with this if he never comes back? And so that's how I found NAMI. Found the family to family course, went there, met Kathy. She was an inspiration to me from day one, because I found out she was a peer and I couldn't believe it. I thought, oh my gosh, there's this woman that is just like me and she's a peer. So I looking at Kathy, I had hope for Paul, but I still had kind of given up that he would ever come back. But like Paul mentioned, he was court ordered to undergo treatment, and since then things have come back around to where we're finally a family unit again, and things are going well.
So Mary Beth, when you were thinking about doing the court order, you came and talked to me, and I think I even had you talk to Deb Jorgensen too. And as a peer, many of us are against court order treatment. And so what were your concerns at that point?
My main concern, well, a couple of things. By this point, Paul was living in Holbrook, and I believe, he was hospitalized in Virginia, and during that period, he totally had cut us off. So there was no communication at all. But I think, when he was in the hospital in Virginia, and the day he left, they gave him an injectable, a 30-day dose. And so I think personally, I think it got him level enough that he realized that maybe we weren't bad, and that's what brought him back to us. But anyway, so once he came back and was living in Holbrook, and we were seeing him a lot more often, and he was coming to visit us, we were going to visit him, when I started noticing that there were signs, he mentioned that he wasn't taking medication, that he wanted to treat it holistically, and hope above all hopes. I thought, okay, well, maybe it'll work. But eventually there was a crisis, and he started spiraling again. And I wanted very badly for him to come to that decision on his own, that he needed help. I tried reasoning with him and telling him what I was noticing, but he said that he had it under control and that he was okay. When I saw that it was getting to the point that he just wasn't going to do it, I got the paperwork, and but I had a really, really difficult time sending it in. I couldn't push the button to get it sent in. And I thought he would hate me again if I did it. I wanted him to be the one to make that decision. So I was staring at the paperwork and my email and just couldn't hit the button. And I said, God, you're going to have to do it for me, because I can't do it. And I walked away from my computer. And then that night is when he was caused a disturbance at a bar in Holbrook. And that led me to hit the send button. So
Paul, why did you write this book? What's your hope for the book? Because you put a lot of you in there. You're revealing so much about yourself in this journey. What do you hope by doing that?
Well, in short, I wanted to enlighten my mom, first and foremost, about what I was going through and my thought process of everything, and just hopefully she can get a grasp on why I was doing what I was doing whenever I was around her and Jim, my stepdad. And so that was my first thought, was to help my family understand what I was going through, and then my friends as well. But further than that, I wanted to hopefully help at least one other person. If I can share my story and it enlightens somebody that I don't know, I feel it's a victory. And so I've set out to write the book and hopefully explain the situation, what bipolar disorder can mean to some people with and without it. And it can open doors for people to have conversations.
And you've been successful in getting it on some university reading lists, right?
Correct. Yeah. University of Michigan's Prechter Bipolar Research Program. They were one of the first to respond to my emails. Basically what I did, I just went down all of Google's lists and trying to find bipolar research programs. So I would email them a brief synopsis, and University of Michigan reached out nearly immediately and said they were going to add it, or they have added it to their list of reading materials for people to check out.
So Paul, I think, you speak for many of us, and I've gone through my life, feeling very guilty about what I did to my family through the mental illness, and also living with the fear that it may come back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every once in a while there's something there that I think, oh my God, can you share a little bit about that? How you are now with that and in your journey?
Yeah, well, I'm comfortable now, and I guess that there always is that lingering fear that something could come back, whether it's stress overload related. That's what I believe I went through, was stress overload. So I try to remain as stress-free as possible. I'm a pretty chill type of guy, cool, calm, collected most of the time. So I don't let stress bug me too much. But there is always that thought in the back of my head, because who knows what's to be around the next corner in life. Life is unpredictable sometimes. But I don't dwell on it whatsoever. Every day is a good day. And if it does happen to spark something, I'll probably reach out to my mom first and foremost and say, hey, you know, I think something's going on a little bit. And just have somebody outside my own person observe me for a little bit, because I know my mom would be there in a heartbeat if I brought it up again.
So
I study him now. I study him every chance I get.
So Dawn has written, is your book available to the public? And I think we as a community would like to see your book get in the hands of law enforcement. I mean, because this is there's this beautiful person before us when it could have been bad. You could have ended up in jail or prison. And so we really need to educate people about that. So could you explain to people how they might be able to get your book?
Absolutely. Simply on Amazon. You can search for the title of the book or search for the author's name. It's available paperback, ebook, and hardcover.
I'll also put a plug. It is on the mental health resource site. The link to order it as well. Well, the link to Amazon to order it.
So Paul, so Mary Beth is also writing her side of the story, which I can barely wait for. But there's a number of people here on this call that are with health plans and are very active in the community. And I'm hoping that they'll pick you guys up and, you know, use you maybe to educate employees in a health plan. I see Gloriana lurking on the corner there. You know, I'm sure her mind is churning. So there's many opportunities that are available through this audience, and I hope they take that advantage. Do we have your contact information up?
We have the Amazon. When the next speaker speaks, I will put, if Paul, with your permission, I'll put your email address up.
That's fine. Absolutely.
And there's our next speaker. I did want to just add that many of you know I started in family support groups over 30 years ago. And so I've been around the mental health arena. My son has a diagnosis of schizophrenia and he does not medicate, and he lives in what I call an alternate reality at all times. And I realized that, but I really didn't realize what that was like to live that until I read Paul's book. So I am a huge advocate of Paul, who has helped on the mental health resource site. And so I really advocate for Paul and for Mary Beth. And I can't wait for your book to come out, Mary Beth.
Okay, does anyone from the audience, do you have any questions? Okay, well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to, you know, our work and NAMI together and seeing guys in a couple of weeks.